This is AJ Jacobson with Rivals.com. I'm talking to Jenn Powers. And were you saying why is a recruiting guy, a football guy, talking to Jenn Powers? The reason is because Jenn is the mom of Jackson Light, who is the committed Oregon Ducks center from Draper, Utah. Jenn, I know you guys were just out here in Oregon, so I'm really happy you were able to spend some extended time in the state. Tell me a little bit about how the trip went.
We had the best time. We really did. We had the best time. Every year, my family, and when I say my family, it's really my mom and dad, the grandparents, and us go on kind of a 4th of July trip every year. And our traditional spot to go is to Santa Cruz, California. Well, we had a house booked there and the whole 9 yards, and about 3 weeks before we were supposed to leave, California called and they said, "I'm sorry, we're closed." And we were like, "Oh no." And I said, "Hey guys, Jackson's going to Oregon soon. We might as well get up there and figure out the coast up there." And so we ended up booking a beach house in Depot Bay, which as probably all of your people know, is like the whale watching capital of Oregon kind of a place. And it was a beautiful home. The weather was perfect the entire time. We ate some really good food at a place called Gracie's Sea Hag, which is written up in the New York Times or something like this. And they have the best clam chowder. And I mean, we just played games and laughed and went to the beach and yeah, had the best time. We really did. We had the best time.
Yeah, my mom has a place in Utah. Well, my mom has several places that she never uses, but yeah. So I've been to Utah many times to stay at her place, and one of the things that always strikes me is the desert beauty, the different types of beauty in that part of the world. Contrast the Oregon, what you saw versus what you see in Utah.
Okay, where's your mom's place?
I was trying to remember it because it's a very small kind of a retirement type of place, and I was trying to think of the name. I haven't been there in like 10 years. So,
okay, so you're
but
close.
Anyway, yeah, it'll come to me. It'll come to me. I told you before we started film or taping this that I'm not very smart, and so I just wanted to give you an example. That's one example.
Okay, so in Utah in the summer, we really have a very, very dry climate. We don't get a lot of rain here at all. It gets very, very hot, but it's a dry heat versus a humid heat. And so it doesn't feel as hot as when you were, say, in like a Florida, which would be a wet heat as well. And so the reason why we always pick to go to kind of the Northwest, because even when we go to California, we go Northern California, is because it gets super hot here, and I don't like to be hot. So every year I say, I have to leave. I have to move out of Utah. I hate it here. I love the fall. I love the winter. I love the spring, but I hate the summer. And so so here it was probably 95 to 98 degrees the entire time we were gone. And in Oregon, it ranges, especially out there on the coast, between like 58 and 70, and that's the sweet spot. That's we love it. So we like bring sweaters and we bundle up and we are thrilled. And if the sun comes out, that's just a bonus, right? So it's very, very different. And for your listeners that are my age, like the second I get to Oregon, because of the humidity, all my wrinkles fall out. I'm suddenly 6 years younger. I love it.
I'm always going to end this interview because, when you came on the video, I'm like, gosh darn it, why are the moms like 20 years younger now than I am?
It's all smoke and mirrors. Botox and duct tape. Yeah.
Well, okay. Now, speaking of being a football mom, Jackson is an extremely active commit, and the reason I say active commit in that he committed and now he's like uber into it. He's helping the Duck coaches try to recruit. He's helping organize their group chat and whatnot. What's it like being a football mom of a committed recruit who's all in like he is?
It's funny because he really did commit really, really early in the process. And we had, as parents, you want to support their choices, absolutely. But you also kind of want to temper that expectation, because as a family, once we commit, barring a catastrophic event, we're committed. And so it was really interesting. I think from a recruiting perspective, there were a lot of schools from that point on that would come in and talk to him and what have you. And the question was always, how into Oregon are you? How committed are you? And he would say 100%. And I don't think they necessarily really realized that until everyone was at home during the shutdown. And so you're looking to Twitter and you're looking to all the social medias to get content. And I mean, Jackson's on there every day being Jackson, which is just, he's 100% committed. And as a family, we, you know, that's what your job as a parent is, right? To find your kids' talents, to develop those talents to the best of your ability, and then to support those choices that they make on those talents as much as you can. So our family's all in too. And so it's really interesting, because there are days when I think, Jackson, okay, that's enough tweeting, like you've done enough today, right? And he'll go, and we'll say, okay, that's enough. And then the next thing you know, one of his videos will hit a totally different site, and those people will start going crazy with it, and he's back at it again. So hopefully he's not putting out too much content and people aren't going to get sick of us before we ever get there.
Well, I don't think that's going to happen. I think people are enjoying it just as long, you know, your husband, James, and yourself, and you're talking about being all in, and it is a whole family thing. Every time I talk to him, he's kind of mentioned that, you know, it's not just me, it's mom and dad too, and my family. I get it. So that's got to be fun to have it be part of your household. I'm sure you've got a little bit of duck gear there in your drawers at this point.
Well, the first thing we did was the Purge. So, because we had been season ticket holders to both the University of Utah and to BYU for years. And my dad was a coach at BYU when I was growing up. And so I kind of grew up in the BYU, I mean, getting up on Saturdays to the fight song was how they woke us up in the morning. And then James has always been a big Utah fan. And so we had a ton of gear. And then we had gear also from just different programs that had, you know, talked to Jackson or offered Jackson. So we had to do a purge. We went through everybody's closets and got rid of everything that wasn't a duck related item or a Corner Canyon related item. And so you'll probably see a bunch of people at the thrift stores wearing all of our old stuff, I suppose. And then Jackson, I mean, I'm on the 3rd floor. He lives kind of in our basement level. He has kind of a man cave down there. And every time I walk down, I'm very much like, it looks like a serial killer lives here, because he has, the whole thing is plastered in duck photographs from all their games last year, because after every game, they would put together kind of the best highlights photographs and ship them off to our house. And they're beautiful photographs. And so Jackson just started wallpapering his walls with every single one of those, and he's got lights around them and flags, and everything is, it's the duck den down there. Absolutely. And then it's funny, if you lay in his bed, on his ceiling, he has a picture of Autzen Stadium. So every night before he goes to bed, he's looking at Autzen Stadium. And every morning when he wakes up, that's the first thing he's looking at. So it's good because it gives him a connectiveness, if that's even a word, on like all the work he's doing and where we're heading with that work.
I'm sitting there churning, trying to think of what the word should be, but I knew what you meant, so I guess that's a word.
Yeah.
All right. Now, I'm trying to be mindful, because if we talk too long, this file gets too big for my computer to manipulate.
Gotcha.
But so no, yeah. But one thing I did want to ask you about was you have a podcast that you do. It's for football moms, and I don't know too much about it, because you know my wife always kicks me out of, like, when she has her friends over for their book thing, you know, I'm not allowed. So I figure I'm not allowed in the Football Moms podcast. But tell me about what you do in that, and the kind of relationships and advice you give.
Well, So during the lockdown, we all had an extra bunch of time on our hands. And my husband had been saying to me for a while, Jen, you should start a podcast. And I would be like, oh, okay, whatever. And but what started to happen is we would go to different camps, right? Or showcases, and you'd sit around with all the other moms who are kind of talking about football and hoping that their kids doing the right thing and wondering about things. And I started to be kind of a more senior member of the knowledge base there. And so moms would come and sit by me and kind of want to know, what did you do about this and what did you do about that? So I ended up starting a podcast called Recruiting for Mamas. And it's only got 8 episodes. One's a pretty long one because I screwed up and accidentally published 2 together. But it just kind of goes over the basics about like, okay, so your kid wants to get recruited, you should do these steps. So Twitter, and these are the camps you should attend, and this is how stars work, and this is how unofficial visits look, and how to job interviews, because essentially when school kicks back up and the NC2A takes off the don't go into schools anymore thing they have, the dead period, kids are going into school every day and may see 5, 6, 7 coaches from different universities that are showing up at their schools. And parents normally have no idea that they met with the head coach of this and the position coach of that. And so just kind of walking them through the basics of that. I'm done with the first season. Who knows if there'll even be a second season, but yeah, Recruiting for Mamas. And the funny part is, my demographic, because it gives me, well, you know, it gives you like who's watching, is mostly dads. So yeah, it's like
I have many more questions that will cross,
dads.
which I'm not going to ask. This needs to be a family show, so I'm going to say, why are these dads? Okay, but they want the knowledge, you know, because
they do.
Boys are going through this, or their daughters, depending on which sport they might be watching. Yeah. So no, that makes sense. So
it's been really like, I'm surprised by how many people have listened to it. It really kind of took off, and now I'm getting people that email me questions specific to their situation, and both James and Jackson are always like, what did you tell them? I go, I told them this, and they're like, oh, okay, that's good, okay. So yeah, that's all it is.
All right. Well, look, Jenn Powers, I think I have reached the limit of what my computer is going to be able to manipulate well on the video side of things. So, man, that was sure fun talking with you. I'm so glad you enjoyed my home state of Oregon, because I had a lot of places to choose myself, you know, when I decided where to settle down, and I picked to come back home to Oregon. So
I love it.
Yeah, very, very good. Jenn Powers, mom of Jackson Light, who will be, you guys will see next year. He's got one more year playing for Draper. But until then, I'm sure we'll be seeing you.
Well, thanks for having me on.
100%. Thank you so much. All right, I'm going to stop the video and stop the whole thing. Thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Oh, no problem.
I hope it